Immigration is one of the hottest and hardest topics in American politics. But what happens when people who've spent decades fighting on opposite sides finally sit down together? In this episode, we explore how Numbers USA and Braver Angels are proving that persuasion, not outrage, just might be the key to fixing America's immigration debate. Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I'm your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. The D-Rate the Hate podcast is proudly produced in collaboration with Braver Angels, America's largest grassroots, cross-partisan organization working towards civic renewal. This podcast amplifies the mission that we share to foster a more respectful and united America where civic friendship thrives even when we disagree. Each week, through the power of story, conversation, and connection with incredible guests, we work to build bridges instead of barriers. Not to change minds on the issues, but to change how we see one another when we differ. Because, friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, share it with a friend, and visit braverangels.org to learn how you can get involved in the movement to bridge the partisan divide. Friends, I am so incredibly grateful that you have joined me for another powerful D-Rate the Hate episode. So let's get to it. This week, we're diving into one of the most polarizing and persistent issues in American life, immigration. My guest is Jim Robb, Vice President of Alliances at Numbers USA, the world's largest member immigration policy organization. Nearly 3 decades ago, Jim helped launch Numbers USA and pioneered one of the first online activism tools that allowed everyday citizens to send millions of faxes and later emails to Congress advocating for immigration reform. Today, Jim's work has taken a new direction through his collaboration with Braver Angels on the Citizens Commission on Immigration. This initiative brings together leaders and organizations that have long been adversaries, groups from across the political spectrum, to have honest, constructive conversations aimed at real reform. In our conversation, Jim and I talk about the economic and moral complexities of immigration, the exploitation of illegal labor, and the myths around jobs Americans won't do, and how bipartisan dialogue might finally pave a path towards meaningful solutions. It's a powerful reminder that persuasion and understanding are still possible, even on the most divisive of topics. Let's jump into it with my friend Jim Robb. Here we go. Jim Robb, welcome to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. It's so good to see you again, man.
Thanks, Will. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this since our last conversation, Jim, because one of the hottest topics that people are talking about right now in terms of polarizing topics, I think is immigration. I mean, it was obviously one of the biggest things that President Trump ran on. He talked about it in his first term, certainly talked about it rolling into this administration now, and then I would contend, even as important as that, it's one of the biggest things that we talked about at Braver Angels at the 2024 National Convention. It was the topic that people kind of gravitated to as the main topic, which led into what I want to talk about first. First, I just want, so for people who aren't familiar with Jim Robb, He is the Vice President of Alliances at Numbers USA. Numbers USA is an organization in Washington, D.C. that does a lot of work regarding immigration. And so I thought you'd be a perfect person to bring in, especially since Numbers USA and Braver Angels are kind of working together on immigration. And I'll have you give the details of that, Jim, because I don't know exactly what the details are when it comes to the Citizens Commission on Immigration. I saw some interesting press on it at one point that I thought was a little unfair. But let's start there. Let's start with what is your job as the VP of Alliances at Numbers USA, and how does that tie into what Braver Angels is doing with the Citizens Commission on Immigration?
Yeah, Wilk, thanks for the question. So 29 years ago, in 1996, Numbers USA went on the air, so to speak, as a website that was arguing for a reformulating of immigration policy to modernize it and make it more along the interest of the American citizen. So the immigration is really set up to fulfill the interest of companies, sometimes large companies or universities or people who want immigrant labor for various reasons, or for cheap hirers, people who want to pay less money, and then of course for immigrants themselves, it's a great deal for them. But a lot of Americans have been displaced by immigrant labor coming in that's undercut them financially, and there's been some other consequences. Plus, you've got to be looking at a policy as big as immigration every few years to see that is the policies we passed in the last century, are they still applicable today? Do they still help us today? So we've formed this organization, and it was internet. We're an internet-based organization. We were one of the first politically oriented organizations that was sort of all internet. And it was a few years before we even had lobbying in Washington. We were on what our initial mission was, and continues to be our biggest mission, is that we have over 1 million people on our system that have signed up, and we send them information through email, text, and tell them what's going on in Washington, and tell them here's what they could say to their congressman to ask for better policy, demand action, that sort of thing. So we have people sending, over time, our members have sent over 50 million messages to Congress. In the early years, it was all faxes, which are expensive to send, but we sent them. And so I've had every job at Numbers USA. I was involved in the early technology, setting this all up. I was involved for a long time in recruiting new members, and then our polling, our advertising, worked heavily in fundraising for a long time. But a couple of years ago, I got an offer to head up our new alliances effort. Well, I loved that because I knew that one of the reasons we weren't getting anything done on immigration policy was that we weren't getting the people in the room.
Sure.
So what has happened, and most issues, is that you get like-minded members of Congress, and you get outside groups that sort of agree with you, and you try to roll over everybody else. This is what both sides do, or there's more than two sides, but the various sides try to do. That's been the preferred method. As a result, because it takes a supermajority in the Senate to get any bill done, it's rare to get that, and the president lined up, and the court's going along with it. So because we have not done the spade work and the hard work of persuasion, we talk about compromise, but people won't compromise when they think you're dead wrong. So we haven't done the work of persuading people about our point and trying to find common ground. So anyway, soon as I got this job as vice president for alliances, I started looking around for people who wanted to talk, and including people that we've never talked to or who've never been in a room with. So one of my friends is a big volunteer in Braver Angels, and she called me up and said, Jim, I heard you're now vice president of alliances. I got a group for you that's perfect for numbers. It's perfect for you. It's called Braver Angels. So without knowing much more about it than her recommendation, I went to the Gettysburg Convention, which is it was not this summer, but the summer before, actually
Right.
2 summers ago.
2 summers ago, yeah.
Right. And I just instantly fell in love with these people because this is like, oh, you mean Republicans and Democrats? I mean, a Republican like me and Democrats who are like really liberal Democrats. We can sit down at a table and just say, oh, what are your views? What are your views? It's not touchy. It's not, oh, you can't talk about it. It's not,
right.
We're going to get into a fist fight or start calling names or assume things about each other before we even know what our views are.
Yeah.
We're going to sit and talk about it calmly. And it's like, oh, I found out, oh, there's like one Republican at the convention for every Democrat.
Yeah.
And I said, I never heard of anything like that.
It had to be a shock to your system coming from Washington, D.C.
Right.
into that environment, right?
Well, the environment here is that you're going to make sure if you're a Republican, no Democrats are in the room with you, and vice versa. So it's the opposite, right? That's my usual world.
Yeah.
And I personally am a Republican, but we have a bipartisan organization, a bipartisan board of directors and staff. But our membership over time became more Republican because the party split apart on immigration, like on every other issue, right? So it's like, 30 years ago when we started this, it's like there was lots of Democrats who agreed with us and lots of Republicans who didn't. But now it's kind of shifted. And so by the time I took up this particular job 2 years ago, it was like, oh man, we have very few Democratic senators or members of the House that we're in regular contact with anymore. And the ones who were like the moderates who were on our side from the Democratic Party were defeated, basically, and replaced either by Republicans or by liberal Democrats. So and so I said, I've got to start talking to people. So I found Braver Angels, and I said to them, hey, how about we get everybody in a room on immigration? People don't talk to each other. We're just formally fighting, and to see if we can work anything out. That's the idea I have. What do you think? And they fortunately for me, they were looking for the issue to follow up on the trustworthy elections thing. Mm-hmm. And so at the 2024 convention in Kenosha, Wisconsin, there was a formal vote of the entire membership who were present, and there were delegates voted overwhelmingly to make immigration the sole policy issue that would be studied, or the main policy issue to be studied for the next 2 years at least.
Yeah.
And so the Braver Angels marshaled all its resources behind this thing. Mm-hmm. And we formed something called the Citizens Commission on Immigration. And we're numbers of states charter members, but so are organizations that have been fighting for the very opposite stuff. Organizations like the Immigration Hub, the National Immigration Forum, the Dream US, people who've been on the other side. We formerly were always fighting with the Koch brothers network because they're Republicans, but they're high immigration people. So we were always clashing with them. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, always clashing. And for years, decades. And now, because of this thing, we've got the Citizens Commission has a couple it has 3 levels. It has the grassroots level with workshops.
I'm sorry, stop. Hang on 1 second. Let me pause you for 1 second. Adley, I'm in the middle of an interview. I need you out of here.
I need to go there.
I don't know where it's at. Hang on. I'm sorry. Hang on 1 second. There's normally don't happen. Here. No. take this.
It's like talking to David Lapp, who's got 6 kids at home.
Right, right. That was
You never know what's going to happen next on a call with him.
yeah. That's very unlike things around here. Normally, I lock the door, and my daughter just got home from school, and all of a sudden, she just walked into the office. So okay, so yeah, normally we find ourselves at an impasse or arguing with people like the Koch brothers and these different organizations, and here now you're at or with Braver Angels, or Braver Angels is doing the Citizens Commission on Immigration, and there's a different feel. So kind of take it.
Yeah. So, okay. So I've sort of told the setup about who's in the room, et cetera. And it's like, oh, everyone there says, oh, nothing like this has ever happened before. We've never gotten everybody in the room. Because, my critique of why all these deals like the Senate Gang of Eight failed and all these big things and immigration bills in Congress, it's because they didn't have enough people in the room. So they agreed with everybody. People who were in the room agreed with them, but then they had people like us who were not in the room, and they said, "Hey, we read the provisions of this bill, and it's like, hey, this is a piece of this is no good. This is going to hurt Americans. We got to oppose it." So isn't it a better idea just to get everybody in the room? And if you disagree, but you're not going to be surprised in the end, and maybe we can find common ground. So yeah, so what we do is we have the local level of the Citizens Commission on Immigration, which is workshops and debates happening all across the country from Brave Angel members and participants. And then we have this Washington centered something called the Immigration Roundtable, and it's all the leaders of the groups and that have formerly just shot rhetorical guns at each other, including me. I mean, I've been shooting away for decades, and now we're eating together, drinking together, becoming friends, and we sit down and we talk. We talk about the issues, and we're not as self-righteous. I mean, me included, not as self-righteous. It's like, well, this is the way we see it. How do you see it? And can we find some common ground? And I'm finding already there's lots of common ground. Now, you never know till it's over, right? But we're getting there. And then the third level of thing is Congress, because the U.S. Constitution gives dictatorial powers to the U.S. Congress to set immigration policy. So the president only enforces. The courts only enforce, or they rather rule on legal questions. But the Congress makes the rules, not the state legislature. Congress. So that's why Numbers USA has been trying to influence Congress all these years. And so we're going to present a report to the nation. Main part of the nation is Congress in a couple of years or year and a half when we're done with it. But my experience and the experience of others involved in this was that if you just slap a report on Congress's desk, no good.
No,
they have to think it's their idea in the first place.
Sure.
Right? You have to be with them every step of the way. They have to be with you. So you have to go meeting with them. Here's where we are now. Here's the people involved in your district, honored sir. And can you come and join the local workshops? Come and see what we're doing. And so then when there's a report, it's like, oh, they're looking forward to seeing the report. Yeah, I know about that. Sure. So that's what they're involved. Yeah. So that's the whole setup. What we do is we're trying to find common ground. But the big thing is the two things are everyone's in the room, right? Yeah. Common ground with who? Right?
Well, that's a hugely important part, right? And I think that's what Braver Angels, that's the dynamic that Braver Angels introduces. It's not like Braver Angels is introducing the policy. They're introducing the structure. They're introducing the framework by which you guys can actually get the voice of the people for this thing.
Right. That's right. Well, that's right. So we're getting the reports on the common ground workshops on the points of agreement.
Sure.
And not all your listeners will be familiar with how the Common Ground workshops work, but it's a group. Usually there's seven Democrats and seven Republicans. They call them Reds and Blues and Braver
Sure.
Angels
Sure.
because, but so it has to be equal on both sides and an impartial chairman and they go through and discuss a subject. Well, the subject for the next couple of years is immigration, various aspects. So that they talk about various possible solutions to the problems. But the only ones that get past that room are ones that everyone in the room, not both sides, everyone in the room from both sides
Common ground points of
agrees.
agreements from everybody in the room.
Right. It means unanimous points of agreement. So this, even though they may not have all the information, that we in the national level may see some holes in logic just because they didn't know about some stuff, because it's very complicated. It's a very expert subject. But we're getting a lot of common sense coming up.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying some things that Numbers USA has been saying forever, like let's make the federal e-verify system mandatory for every U.S. employer. Well, that's a system that makes sure that people aren't forging documents and passing them off to the employer saying, hey, I have a right to work in this country. And, the employer, without e-verify, how do they check it? They have no way of checking that.
No.
That's
As
why.
somebody who's hired a lot of people myself, and had people working for me, that thing is beautiful, and I love the fact that it does what it needs to do to ensure that you're not hiring illegals. I mean, it's the accountability.
And you get the benefit of the doubt as an employer if they find that someone gamed the system and passed off forged documents. The system couldn't discover that they were fake.
Or safer.
You're safe as long as you use the system with good faith and work trying to game it yourself. If the fraud was them and not you, you're completely held blameless. So I don't know why every employer doesn't use it now, except some want to use illegal immigrants to undercut Americans.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Jim, because I think that is one of the things that drives me bonkers. I've said it for a while, and it way oversimplifies a complex topic, and I could just about guarantee you're going to agree on this. But I've said for a long time, I can fix the immigration problem tomorrow, being one of those people. And I just say, okay, any employer caught exploiting an illegal immigrant for cheaper labor, whatever, we find it, fine them $500,000 per employee, whatever, it stops tomorrow. I know that's a huge oversimplification, but I think one of the biggest problems that we face as a nation with employers exploiting illegals for their gain and then dictating how we manage policy, I think that's a big part of the problem. So, like I said, my oversimplification is not a serious thing, but
it's actually, there's a lot to that. They have, even the Trump administration they're hauling away a lot of poor illegal immigrants, but I only know of a couple of companies that have gotten in trouble, right? Those are people who you can prove that if you can prove that they ignored the documents, or if you can prove that they systematically hired and that they could hire people below American rates, they can give huge fines and jail time. But it's rarely done. It's like, it's like something's bad on the antebellum Southern plantation. You haul the slaves away, punish them instead of the slaveholders. So it's not right. It's not fair. And let's talk about, if you don't mind, jobs Americans will or will not do, right? Because isn't that what people say? Yeah. Why do they do it? If you ask someone who's been caught hiring illegally, or just admits it to you, they're your friend. I've had hundreds of people admit to me they hire illegally, right? Because I'm not a policeman. They know I work on immigration. So it's like, oh man, we just can't find Americans. Well, I sat on a plane once with a guy whose job it was to go around the country and hire truck drivers for companies that did shipping because they couldn't find truck drivers, and he set them up with foreign truck drivers, mostly, he told me, illegal. And he says the problem is you just can't find a good $14-15 an hour American trucker. And I'm listening to it and I'm saying, yeah, it's because he's starving to death and he does that job. He's got to
Right.
he's away from his family. He's doing overnights in hotels. He's he's
Yeah, if you're lucky in a
he's
hotel, I
make
spent a lot of nights in a sleeper.
well, right. Well, and it said Americans can't work for those wages.
No.
Americans can't live in a rooming house, an illegal rooming house, where for in my county, Fairfax County, Virginia, only four unrelated adults can live in a house together. Even that seems like a lot, but they're houses that they find 12 and 15 unrelated people. It's a boarding house and it's unsafe. They've got the doors nailed shut at the various doors to they go in there, they find they're ready to burn down. They got illegal space heaters around, and people are sleeping on the floor, rats, and it's horrible. But if you're desperate to get any job, you'll do that. But Americans can't get away with that. They can't get away with it, and why should they? I mean, why should Americans have to live in conditions like that? If that's your competition, sure, he can work for $12 or $13 an hour. Americans got to get $20 an hour to be a long distance trucker or more to make it anything like worth it.
Oh yeah, it's
And
more than that now, but yeah,
more than that. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm being modest, but and Americans have to have health insurance. You don't have health insurance, guess what? The bill collector knows how to find you in America. But
yeah.
if you're an illegal alien, you have no you may have no bank account, and you've got no permanent address. They can't find you. So when you get sick, you just go to the hospital and go to the emergency room. That's why emergency rooms are always overcrowded. It's because illegal immigrants just show up there instead of having their own doctor.
Yeah, that's a
So,
big part of it.
yeah. What we call this in my line of work is the privatization of profits and the socialization of costs. And
Privatization of profits and socialization of cost. Yeah, and that
right,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, we all end up footing the bill in higher taxes, higher healthcare costs, any number of different things that are happening as a result of immigration. And it really comes down in my mind, Jim, to in a lot of ways to the exploitation. I mean, it is
oh
not, in
yeah,
my opinion, a truly humanitarian thing to just say, okay, well, we're going to allow unfettered illegal immigration or try to provide services to people who, I mean, because what is happening is exactly what you're talking about. People are living in horrible conditions. They're not paying
very
into
often.
the way that they
That's
are.
right.
If they are paying into the system, they're not getting it back in the end, which is not one of these things, because I know that's one of the arguments that we hear quite often is, well, some of these people that are using a fake ID or paying into Social Security and blah blah blah, and they'll never get that back. Well, that's not. I mean, that's not a that's not some virtuous thing to say
No,
when
no,
we. So I
that's
mean,
that's
this
no
is
way to run a railroad.
it's not
And
no,
let me,
it's no way
and
to
let me
run
talk
anything.
and let me talk a bit about jobs Americans won't do because this is people hear this more than anything else. Oh, we got to do it because Americans just won't do those jobs. Well,
That's not true.
that
That's
means
not true.
they won't do them at the illegal and depressed prices that a flooded labor market flooded with illegal labor and other people who may be legal, but they came in so poor, right?
Hmm.
That they'll work for anything. Okay, so here's how you disprove this. People say, "How could you ever prove this?" Some studies say you hear these things. Some studies say this, but some studies say. I'll tell you, the only study you ever need is the state of West Virginia, which has 2% immigration. 2% of people are immigrant, right?
Sure.
So what are the jobs Americans won't do? Hotel maid. They're all Native Americans in West Virginia. What are the other jobs? Roofer, all native West Virginians in West
Hmm.
Virginia.
Hmm.
Crop pickers? Well,
Coal miners,
Yeah, they're
crop
every job.
farmers,
Every job
every
is an
job.
American job
Yeah, blue
in
collar,
West
white
Virginia.
collar. Yeah.
So actually, what really is meant by that statement is I can't find an American who will work as cheap as an illegal worker.
Right.
And
That's
that's all it
the true
means.
statement right
All
there.
it means. That's the true statement. And it's, there's this, and now in our 21st century, we got a lot of new phraseology that's like, but you've heard this saying the quiet part out loud,
Yeah.
right? You've heard
Yeah.
this. So the quiet part out loud is Americans do every job that there is to be done in areas with low immigration. And it's like, oh, where you go to West Virginia and you find all these houses, but the roofs, there's no roofs because Americans won't do roofing. What? No.
Right.
You say, oh, who's going to pick our crops? Well, who picks them in low immigrant areas?
Right.
Americans. There's never been a field of tomatoes that's not been harvested. It's all a myth.
Yeah.
It's a lie. It's why do people buy this garbage? I did an article for Newsweek about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I think, and about a case study in this. I did a lot of research about jobs Americans won't do. I talked about West Virginia, but I also talked about Mexican hotel maids and American hotel maids. So American hotel maids make about $24 an hour, believe it or not. It's not bad paying work, especially since
good paying work for a good, honest job.
Right. I mean, right. It's like they never had any trouble getting people doing that work, but suddenly it's all recent arrivals from Latin America. And well, they work fine too. There's nothing wrong with their work, but why are they there instead of the people who had those jobs ancestrally? I say, well, go to West Virginia and other areas like that, and you'll find, well, Americans are still doing the jobs. A. B, because in Mexico, the prevailing wage for a hotel maid is $2.75 an hour in local money.
Sure.
$2.75 an hour. So the maid comes up to America, legally or illegally. She's used to making $2.75. Well, if someone pays her $17.50 rather than the $24.50 that Americans are paid, she's still got enough money to send so much money back home. She replaces the salary to her family that she was making down there. Plus, she's building a modest life for her up here. That sounds great, except what are the people doing who did that job previously?
Yeah.
Well, as we've seen, the employment rate, not the unemployment rate, the employment rate of especially men in our society has gone down for 50 years. Every year, a little bit lower. It's like, what is it, 60, 65% working now versus like 85% 50 years ago. Why? Well, the expansion of social welfare is one reason. The destruction of the American family, which men need a family to keep them steady and motivated to go to work.
I'm a testament to that story.
Right. I get up every day, go to work.
Yeah.
So, but the third thing is they've been displaced so often. Displaced by people who are desperate coming in, who will work for any wage. And it's not just at the low end, like I've been talking about low end, also at the high end. How about why is Microsoft and Apple hiring thousands and thousands of H-1B workers? There's only one reason. They're cheap.
Right. And Jim, this has gone way too fast, and I know we're getting close to the end of our time here today, so we're going to have to save a lot of things that are left unsaid in this conversation for our next one. But I think about a number of things here, and one of my biggest takeaways from this conversation is the importance of, because this is a very complex topic that is way too often oversimplified. And when you take a complex topic and you oversimplify it, and then you introduce emotions, and then you also introduce the outrage entrepreneurs that are trying to capitalize upon this side's outrage on this issue or that side's issue on that issue.
Right.
It makes sure that nothing gets done. But the reality is like my lived experience. You talked about people picking crops and things like that. I grew up in the Midwest in the 70s and 80s and in the 90s. And every summer A big thing that teenagers would do would be to, we were spraying beans or throwing hay bales or roguing corn or detasseling corn and things like that. That was a thing that kids did during the summer when they weren't in school. They earned money, they built a work ethic, things like that. So it was easy when the, call it whatever power that be, it is a state government, federal government, whatever, when they start pricing things, kids out of the market or making it illegal for kids of a certain age to work and things like that. It's a whole nother problem. But the reality is it wasn't a problem before. Those people have been displaced now. The reality is, Jim, we all have, especially people of our age bracket or whatever, that lived during those times when those things were happening. We didn't have a lot of illegal immigration. This whole thing wasn't a thing then, and people were doing those jobs. That's just one of the many complex pieces of this bigger equation. But the thing that I would encourage, and then I'll give you the last word on this, the thing that I would encourage people to think about is, before you get all hot and bothered or post that next meme online about this, that, or the other thing, there's a lot of myths and a lot of facts and a lot of gray area in the conversation when it comes to immigration.
That's right.
Braver Angels, in conjunction with Numbers USA and many other different entities, have come together to provide a structure where people can have these conversations, break down the complexities of it, find some common ground, and put forward some points of agreement that Congress will actually look at and then make something meaningful happen with. I'll give you the last word, but that, to me, that is just the most important takeaway from this conversation, and then the rest we'll just have to leave for later because it's a lot, but it's important.
Yeah. Well, Wilk, I guess, as I've gotten further into this work and trying to find common ground, I found that I've got opponents in the right wing, opponents in the left wing. The people on the wings don't want compromise. They prefer not getting anything to giving someone else something they want. And it's been eye-opening. I guess I knew that somehow abstractly before. But, people who are involved in Braver Angels and are really trying to find common ground, it's not easy all the time because politics isn't run that way in America anymore. No. But the missing word in American politics, I guess that's my final point, is not compromise, it's persuasion. Because if we don't bother to try to persuade someone, then they're not going to compromise because it's like they don't see you have any truth, right? So you can persuade me if you can. I'm listening, and I'll try to persuade you. And out of that comes compromise and common ground.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of persuasion comes with true understanding of who you're talking to. And if we aren't having the conversation, we cannot persuade anybody to do anything. And we just keep fighting. So, Jim Robb, Numbers USA, this has been a fantastic conversation. Many more to come between you and I, my friend. Just a lot of important things to talk about and a lot of political dysfunction. So we will definitely have more conversations in the future. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Wilk.
Friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to get the Derate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. We really are better together. So please take a moment to visit braverangels.org and consider joining the movement towards civic renewal and bridging our political divides. This is Wilk wrapping up for the week saying get out there. Be kind to one another. Be grateful for everything you've got. And remember, it's up to you to make every day the day that you want it to be. With that, my friends, I'm going to back on out of here and we will catch you next week. Take care.